Just when I think Farmland Saga or Vinland Saga Season 2 can't get any better, another episode comes out to say, we haven't seen nothing yet. And we're only 4 episodes deep into this 2-core season, and I already found a new favorite episode of the series in general. And I mean, that's not to discredit any of the greatness of Season 1, but I love Max Depression, and that's literally what this arc is. You can call it Farmland Saga all you want, this is Depression Saga. And to consider the fact that our boy Thorfinn really was 5 or 6 when all this BS started happening to him, you always know, obviously, a kid growing up in that environment, it will come back to change them, and usually not for the best. But to consider the fact that of how broken he is now, that those nightmares are beyond haunting, I never expected to see it, nor did I expect to see that strangle scene with Einar, and just to see everything that this episode delivered. This is peak anime right here. Now, I do have a full live reaction to today's episode available on my Patreon, so if you're interested in seeing that, consider supporting. But this episode, I mean, this has been a steady climb. I think Vinland Saga came back swinging with episode 1, but each episode has gotten progressively better. They end with that amazing cliffhanger with Snake coming in, punching that fool in the face, and honestly, was it on my bingo card that Snake would end up mirroring the person that someone like Thorfinn, his entire life about trying to kill and attack, once that's removed from him, he lost his will to live. Was I expecting him to see Aslad in his eye? No, but the fact that he actually defended himself, it changed everything. It kind of gave you that spark of he's not completely dead yet, and even though the main thing that kept him alive for so long is no longer there, I think what that triggers is that there's other things in life that can reignite that spark. It's just obviously being a slave, being in the predicament he's in, it's not going to happen overnight or very quickly. I mentioned it when we first saw the nightmare in terms of, I think it was in episode 2, I believe. And I mean, it was pretty depressing, right? It was absolutely horrible to see our boy in that state. But it's not like he was someone with clean hands. It's not like Thorfinn has done only noble things in his life. We recognize that the things that have happened to Einar's family, he was a part of to different villages and different families, right? The fact that Vinland Saga, rather than trying to justify why things happen, instead they just show you how this world operates and the different perspectives that can clash. And to have 2 very different people be in the same predicament, the same slave farm, and basically they have the same chance at freedom. One doesn't even know how many he's killed, the other just wanted to protect his family. And to see someone who can look at you in the eye and not tell you a number because he's killed so many and has done the exact thing that ruined your life, I understand where the rage came from. Of course, I was hoping he wouldn't do it, or he would immediately realize his mistake. But it doesn't change the fact that that moment in the barn at the very end of the episode was some of the most emotionally heavy content I've seen in the past couple of years. Because they've done a really good job at making me love this new character, Einar. And I would go as far to say, anyone who's following my 2-Year Eternity videos, I mean, Bon and Fushi in that show, that pairing there is one of my favorites that I've seen. And I would honestly say that Thorfinn and Einar, their bond is equal to that of me. I really enjoy what they're doing here. And I think the complexity of the situation of 2 very different walks of life, and the fact that our boy's just trying so hard to carry on, because we know Einar lost it 2 times, right? The initial time he lost his father, and the first episode of the season starts off and we see him sitting with his sister and his mother, and the mother saying like, we have right here, this is good, we have to appreciate what we have. And the fact that he's still trying to hold on to those values even as he sleeps in a barn that's open, there's no doors to stop the wind chill. They have hay to lay on, they are slaves for at least the next decade, and he's still trying to hold on to that value even when looking at someone who reminds him of everything he's lost and he wants to strangle him till he can't breathe. But the fact that every night, apparently, he wakes him from those nightmares, I mean, it's a very complex relationship and one that I hope can continue for some time. I don't expect Farmland to come to an end anytime soon. I mean, yes, we do have a very dramatic cliffhanger at the very end of the episode, which honestly looks like it's going to be a little intense, and I imagine war will be coming to their doorsteps eventually. But I think in general, this won't be something that's resolved in a handful of episodes. I wouldn't be shocked if the entirety of this season is this farm, and I remember around the midway point of season 1, people were talking, oh, when we get to Farmland Saga, people will drop off because it's not as interesting. I don't like those monkey brain takes because this is just as interesting as anything we've seen, and emotional drama and character development is far more important than constantly seeing wars and battlefields. And as we've seen over the course of this month of watching Vinland Saga Season 2, they've still been able to use battles in interesting ways, whether in flashbacks or just telling a story alongside it. So they've done a really good job at keeping the viewers engaged, if you ask me, and I think this is the best episode to date. I actually did rewatch Season 1 about a couple months back here because, I mean, Vinland Saga greatness, you can never go wrong with a nice little rewatch. So most of the episodes are fresh on my mind, so it's not me just saying because this is like recency bias. Like, I love every episode of this show, but there is something about that emotional development, whether it's someone who was so dead inside for over a year because he's a slave, he has no will to live, you can stab him, you can cut his ear off, he doesn't flinch, but someone who mirrors the person who gave him that drive the whole time, the fact that he defended himself. I mean, Snake brought out something I thought was dead in our boy and wouldn't be seen for a long, long time. And the fact that you then have Einar's side of the story and everything going on there, it is a very complex situation. And I think one of my favorite aspects about the visual directing this week is I think it was done on purpose. I don't think I'm just kind of like saying this because I assume something that wasn't intended. They focused on insects and wildlife a lot this episode, and I think it was done intentionally. You'll see insects like pushing their food and you know, it's like a big boulder to them, but they're making it work. You'll see this porcupine that's like all scrunched up and kind of angry, and then the mom will be carrying it away. And these moments just really represent Einar and Thorfinn. Whether it's, you know, someone like Thorfinn kind of being like the grumpy one, not really showing the right emotions, and Einar kind of carrying him around, or the insects kind of just being like, even in a world that has so many things larger than it, they still survive and thrive. And it almost to me felt like they were trying to get across with how often they were focusing on the wildlife or the insects, was that even if they're so small right now, they have a whole world ahead of them, and they can survive, they can thrive, but yeah, it will be more of a challenge than the things that are larger than them right now. So in the case of those who are free, who already have their freedom, I really like what they did with the visual directing, but the music was no joke. The score at the end, like, there was just this string of piano pieces that were playing around the midway point all the way up to the credits, and it was emotional. On top of having Thorfinn's VA just completely knock it out of the park. I don't know how he's getting across such an emotionless, dead inside character, but still conveying emotion as a VA, showing that it's not someone unenthusiastic, but actually just performing someone who feels dead inside. That is some next level VA work. I mean, I've been hyping up Vinland Saga since its debut in season 1, and I mean, there's been manga readers doing it well before, years before it even got an anime. This series is truly like anything we've experienced in anime, and it just does something different. It feels fresh, it feels unique, it doesn't sugarcoat the bloodfest that these characters have been through, and it doesn't try to excuse things, but rather just show things from different perspectives. And I still can't get over the fact that Snake, a dude who seems so lazy, just was able to turn into a character I'm so excited to see more of. I mean, really, when you wake up and he's basically complaining that Gramps didn't make him food and he's gonna go get someone who will make it, and then an hour after waking up goes back to sleep, doesn't really give across the most confident level character, but I mean, a single punch, a 1-2 KO, and he's already one of the best characters of season 2 if you ask me. But thoughts, feelings, yourself down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell if you want to get as many notifications to the channel as possible, and be sure to head on over to the Patreon if you want to see that full live reaction to today's episode. And while you're there, you'll also get a video shoutout like Zesram, Darian Smith, and Sacha are getting today. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.